Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Round the Nation right here. Jeff Waldorf. It is the Halloween edition of Round the Nation right here. So, oh look, I'm dressed up for the occasion. So, reporting for duty, sir. All right. So, we're having fun. Of course we are. But we do have some serious stories on today's show. So, buckle up for that. We have a right-wing plot against Robert Mueller that has been foiled. You're going to love the details. It's kind of hilarious how bad it is. And I'm going to show you just how ridiculous this plot actually is. It's a fun story and ridiculous. Not only that, we've got Dave Chappelle talking about Russia. Oh, fascinating. Very fascinating. We also have disastrous reports in the middle class. We also have rich people. How much richer have they gotten since 1982? Oh, boy. We've got also finally Candace Owens. Nice. Candace Owens on the show. Also, we have a birthday announcement. We have Zach Sherman. So happy birthday, Zach. Hopefully you have an awesome day. Yeah, look, guys, I'm having fun here. We're doing Halloween, so I'm enjoying it. I'm going to go out. I'm going to have a Halloween party and all that stuff. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I'm trying to have fun here. That's what you got to do. Or else, as I said before, if we're not laughing, we would most likely cry or get really, really angry. So, okay. Anyway, so let's go to the first story here. Hey, give us a like and a share, too. That helps out the show. In fact, I'm going to go here and tell you how to do that. Man, the automation, I love it. All right. So please like and share, support our show, patreon.com, all that stuff. Okay. Anyway, let's go to the right-wing plot. So, yeah. Let's do this. Okay. So the FBI is now investigating a plot against Robert Mueller. Now, on Tuesday, The Atlantic reported that Mueller, who right now is running an investigation into the 2016 election, into Donald Trump, and as well as people around Donald Trump's orbit, and they've actually gotten a lot of guilty pleas and indictments against Trump staffers. Okay, so this investigation, though, that they are looking into now on the side is a plot against Robert Mueller that alleges that a couple of very pro-Trump people, social media figures, are alleged to have attempted to pay off women in order to make up false charges against Robert Mueller. Now, these women, who are identified as Lorraine Parsons and Jennifer Taub, told journalists and media figures that they had been offered these large sums of money in order to accuse Mueller of sexual harassment. Now, Peter Carr, who is the special counsel spokesperson, told The Atlantic, quote, "When we learned last week of allegations that women were offered money to make false claims about the special counsel, we immediately referred the matter to the FBI for investigation. And what has so far been found about this ridiculous plot is that, well, look, I'll go into the details, right? But the main thing we found is that these people who are trying to do this are incredibly inept. I mean, they're so dumb. Now, NBC News wrote earlier that GOP lobbyist Jack Berkman, who is a well-known conspiracy theorist, never heard of him till today, was openly advertising that he had proof that Mueller was a sexual abuser on Facebook. Fascinating. Now, Berkman also is the same guy who talks about Seth Rich. So that conspiracy theory, also Berkman. Great. Now, emails obtained by The Atlantic showed that the woman identifying herself as Parsons told reporters that she had been offered complete clearance of her credit card debt, as well as an additional $20,000 payment by a firm called Surefire Intelligence to make accusations of sexual misconduct and workplace harassment against Robert Mueller. Parsons said that she was also asked to sign a sworn affidavit attesting to the accusation's accuracy. So what they're doing is that they're attempting to use Me Too to bring down Mueller. Fascinating. All right. Now, though Parsons said that she did work at a law firm with Mueller in '74, the firm in question denied any records of that to NBC News. So, did Parsons actually work there or did she not work there? Well, if she didn't work there, then obviously none of that is true. And there is no possible way she could have been the recipient of harassment from Robert Mueller. Even though she's saying that, no, I did work there, but in no way was I harassed by Mueller. That's fascinating, right? Nobody seems to have otherwise tracked her down, so she could have been made up, which is really, really strange. Now, Berkman says, well, that's exactly what it is. She's made up. She's fictional. Okay, well, what about the other person who is alleged to have been offered money by this firm to smear Robert Mueller? Now, that's Taub, right? Jennifer Taub. Well, now, she's actually a real person. Now, she's a Vermont law school professor who says she had never even met Robert Mueller. She also told The Atlantic that she had received emails from a Surefire account proposing a similar arrangement. So, okay, that's weird. So now, Surefire is supposedly this company that is sending out these requests, right, for, oh, hey, do you have any information about Robert Mueller that basically we can use against him? And that, okay, so you don't have any information. How would we pay you to manufacture this story in order to help bring him down? And we'll pay all your credit card debt. Well, okay, so what is this company, though? Well, I've got the details on that. Now, it turns out that this company had been incorporated about a month ago. So it's a recent, corporation that was created in order to give money or to offer money for these, allegations to be manufactured. This is so strange, right? This is incredibly strange, but it gets stranger, right? Now, the company advertises itself as a private intelligence agency that designs and executes bespoke solutions for businesses and individuals who face complex business and litigation challenges. That's literally their byline on their LinkedIn. So that's the description of their own company. And they claim, oh, it was former Israeli security experts that founded this company. Now, is Jack Berkman a Israeli security expert? I don't think so. The other guy, also named Jacob Wall, is also not an Israeli security expert. He's not a super spy. None of them are. But nonetheless, they continue. Now, this is a shell corporation, and one of the other people, aside from Berkman, that are involved in this company is Jacob Wall. Jacob Wall is basically the Donald Trump #1 fan. He's the #1 fan of Donald Trump aside from Donald Trump. Now, as the Daily Beast notes, he's also a conspiracy theorist whose past includes stints as a hedge fund manager. Now, he's about 20 years, a 20-year-old, right? Now, he ran a hedge fund and I guess that's why he was sort of famous and like, oh, look at Jacob Wall. He's the youngest person to run a hedge fund. Well, it turns out that didn't go very well for him because he had clients that had accused him of fraud. Oh, well, okay, this guy is apparently incredibly trustworthy, but he has a pretty large following from the MAGA crowd. Now, according to The Beast, Wall told them that Berkman had hired Surefy's managing partner, Matthew Cohen, to assist in finding accusers against Muller. So now here's another person that's involved, Matthew Cohen. Now, here's where it gets really stupid. One of Wool's contact numbers led to his mom's phone and a photo of this Matthew Cohen. Now, I want to show you that photo and see if you notice anything particularly strange. All right. On top, Matthew Cohen. The picture on the bottom, that's Wall. That's Jacob Wall. All those pictures at the bottom are Jacob Wall. So wait a minute. That's the same guy. This is the same guy, just darkened. Wow, man. Okay. Again, it gets stupider. All right. There's more, right? Domain records for Surefire Intelligence website also listed Wall's email. Okay. So they got an email, a darkened picture of himself pretending to be someone else, and his mom's phone number connected to this company that was just incorporated about a month ago. This company allegedly offered 2 people money to falsely accuse Robert Mueller of sexual harassment. And one of those people might not even exist. Really? Okay. You guys still with me? Because already this is probably the stupidest, most complicated plot I've ever seen. But it gets dumber. Now, Surefire, again, claims that it was set up by 2 ex-Israeli agents, right? Intelligence, right? And that they apparently employ other intelligence experts, right? But it turns out they don't actually have any other intelligence experts at all. Matthew Cohen, I just pointed out, he doesn't exist. He's not a real person. So now there are other supposed agents who are also not real people. In fact, let's go into some of these experts listed on their website. We got more pictures for you guys. All right, let's take a look. All right. So here you have Donald Treehorn, investigator at Surefire Intelligence, LP. As you can see, their tagline, Surefire Intelligence is a private intel agency that designs and executes bespoke solutions for businesses and individuals who face complex business and litigation challenges. All right, so Donald Treehorn. There's a little bit of a problem with this picture. And it turns out Donald Treehorn doesn't actually exist. It's this guy, Webstagram. They just took that picture and they said, hey, that looks good. We'll make up this guy, Donald Treehorn, and we will hire him into our company. There's another one, right? So this one, Talia Yaniv, Tel Aviv station chief at Surefire Intelligence. Oh, look, Jewish, right? Ex-Israeli, apparently. Turns out, nope. Someone else. This is actually a model. Oops. Sad. Ridiculous, man. Now, of course, like all conspiracies that are created on the right wing, it gets filtered all the way through the right-wing media bubble, right? Which eventually ends up on Fox News, and then the president picks it up from there. Well, apparently that didn't happen because The Atlantic caught it early. But not early enough to where it got caught by the Gateway Pundit. You guys know the Gateway Pundit. I've talked about them before. They're not a trustworthy news source, right? Now, the Pundit, their story about this cited documents from a firm with, quote, international private intelligence. Now, they said that those documents alleged that on or around August 2nd of 2010, Muller, then the director of the FBI, was reeking of alcohol at Manhattan's St. Regis Hotel when he identified himself to an unnamed woman as, quote, a cop attending a conference in the city. When Muller asked her to join him in his room and she refused, the story went, Muller told her, I work for the FBI and I'm not the guy that you say no to. The documents then accused Muller of intimidating her into coming her into his hotel room before sexually assaulting her. Now, international private intelligence, that's where this information comes from, right? Now, it sounds familiar. It came from Surefire Intelligence. Of course it did. Now, Gizmodo decided to look into that claim, as everybody has, and they found it so full of holes that even the Gateway Pundit later on issued a retraction. A complete retraction. They wrote, we took the documents down and we're currently investigating these accusations. They also added, these are very serious allegations against Jacob Wohl. We are also looking into this. And by the way, this would be conspiracy to make false allegations against an FBI agent, a government official. They might be in some serious shit with this, in serious trouble, if the FBI investigation finds something against these two. Not just Wohl, but Burke as well. We'll have to see how that shakes out. But again, this is already being looked into by the FBI. This is serious shit. But overall, though, this is this is probably the dumbest conspiracy I've ever come across. They are so incredibly inept. I've just showed you everything that they did. They poorly photoshopped people and had them say, well, they claim to work for me. And then the documents, I mean, it came from us, Surefire, right? That was incorporated just 3 weeks ago, around that time. It's so obvious and so fake. I mean, who do you think would take a bribe to manufacture allegations against the most well-known special counsel since Ken Starr? How dumb do they think we are, right? Who would be dumb enough to do that? Apparently nobody. And Jennifer Taub does exist. That other person, we don't know if she exists or not. Nobody else has even heard of her or reached out to her. So we don't know. They made her up too. So look, all this is just complete insanity. And that's not even addressing how dumb Wohl and Berkman are for coming up with this nonsense. And the Gateway Pundit for picking it up. You know what this says to me? It says that they are scared and they are desperate, right? Trump sycophants, because that's who these two people are so scared of the Mueller probe. They're so scared. Hey, man, if you believe that that he didn't do it, that Donald Trump didn't do it, why aren't you letting this investigation go through? Oh, it's because it's a witch hunt. It's all the Democrats in the FBI, which Robert Mueller's a Republican. Rod Rosenstein is a Republican. Everybody connected into the FBI is pretty much a Republican. No, more conspiracy theories. So now these idiots that believe anything that you tell them or anything that Donald Trump tells them goes, oh, I got a brilliant idea. I'm going to go try to discredit Robert Mueller using Me Too. Because it's been so successful taking down both Republican and Democratic, and not only Democratic politicians, but funders as well. Well, we're going to use this in our base. This is a weaponization of Me Too. And a good example of it. But it's also a great example of how dumb these people are and how inept they are at actually creating a conspiracy that would actually work. So much for the right wing being full of geniuses. Okay. All right, let's move on. Dave Chappelle. So this is a great story. It's sort of related to the Russia investigation as well. Okay. So there are a lot of reports following the 2016 election that it was Russians using bots and trolls to divide America on racial lines, using memes and Facebook posts, and that's ultimately what helped Donald Trump win the 2016 election. Now, you guys know how I stand on that. I don't think that that's what lost Hillary Clinton the election. I think she was a terrible candidate, and especially a terrible candidate for an election year that was an anti-establishment election year. You don't run somebody who's a corporatist during an election year where everybody hates the establishment and corporatists. But anyway, I don't want to go back and relitigate 2016. But when reporting on the investigation, right, into Russian interference, and I believe that they did try to interfere, and how successful they were, I don't think that they were necessarily successful, at least not at creating the division, maybe exploiting it, but definitely not creating it. And so my point is that America was already divided on racial lines long before Donald Trump, long before the 2016 election, right? And in an interview with Christiane Amanpour, none other than comedian Dave Chappelle backs that up by saying this.
Some of the things they say, even when they say that Russia influenced the election, it's kind of like, is Russia making us racist? Is that who's doing it? Okay, I thought it was. Oh my God, thank goodness I thought it was us.
I hadn't thought of it that way. Huh? I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah, if they kill the country that way, then we're the murder weapon.
Damn. If they kill the country, then we are the murder weapon. You hear that? Americans, look, Russia didn't make Americans racist. We were already racist. So, well, look, all they did is try to play on that division that was already there. And that was something that Donald Trump actually did even more effectively. He played in the division that was already there. Look, long before Russian meddling, by the way, and long before Donald Trump, during the 8 years of President Obama, it was shown that this country has a serious problem with racism. That's why Donald Trump, I believe, is actually a symptom, right? Because there's this undercurrent of racism and racial resentment that has been stirred on and ran on by the right for decades. Look, going back to civil rights, right? The right wing, for example, ran on a Southern strategy. And they had a pretty long, pretty successful run. They appeal to racists, and then racists turn out and they vote for you. That's what they did. Donald Trump didn't create that. The Russians didn't create that. They exploited it, but it's always been there. And so that's the big problem here. And so that's what, unfortunately, a lot of corporate media tends to miss when they talk about the issue of, oh, did Donald Trump create this? No, he didn't create the problem. Chappelle later says he's riding this like a wave. Basically, yes. That's absolutely correct. Now, here's the thing, right? Going back to the past, the politics of racial resentment and white identity politics have been played in nearly every election, from Ronald Reagan's welfare queens to the Willie Horton ad. And look, even on the Democratic side, Bill Clinton ending welfare as we know it. That had a huge impact on the black community. Turns out racism sells. Fear of the other gets people out to the polls. And again, that foundation was already there. That foundation of racism and hatred and racial resentment. And we're seeing it basically bubble over today. Now, we see this, and we see examples of this all over. We got black people that get the cops called on them for basically doing nothing. Police officers getting off despite shooting unarmed black citizens. Police officers barging into other people's homes who think, oh no, that's my house. Oh, I see a shadow, and it ends up being a black man being killed in his own home. That's what we have. The Russians didn't do that. That's not Russia, right? So maybe my whole point here is maybe we should stop blaming other countries or just Donald Trump. And maybe we should actually admit that we've got a big race problem in this country, driven by media outlets like Breitbart and Fox News that profit off these divisions, and by politicians on both sides that benefit from pitting us against each other. Now, I'm not saying that this is even. I'm not trying to make a false equivalence here. This problem exists mostly on the right wing, but there are some on the left too. I mean, look, Democrats do promise to fix some of the problems in the black community, but then they don't. Some Democrats will use black people for votes and not actually do anything to make black people's lives better. Again, that's not the same as Republicans. Republicans are far worse. They go out of their way to make life worse for people of color. So don't misunderstand me. And again, I am not attempting to conflate both sides. I'm just saying that right now, we've got groups of citizens that are facing unequal treatment and unequal justice. And that right now, I think, is a far bigger problem than the Russians posting memes. Chappelle is 100% correct on this one. And so I'm glad somebody is saying it. All right. I'm going to take a break here. We'll come back. We got middle class news for you guys. So, whoops. More middle class news for you guys. We'll talk about how many jobs in America can actually let you afford a middle class life, and how many don't, and more. So stay right here around the nation. We'll be right back.
Some of the things they say, even when they say that Russia influenced the
Everybody, welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here. Jeff Waldorf with you. Okay, so let's get to more stories here. Disaster, and you'll see why. Okay. There's a new study out there that shows one reason why the middle class has shrunk. Now, apparently, over 60% of jobs no longer pay enough to enable a middle-class lifestyle. Now, this is a study that was done by The Third Way. And you guys know how I feel about The Third Way, but let's get to the numbers before I criticize them. Apparently, according to the study, 62% of all jobs fall short of a middle-class standard when factoring both wages and the cost of living in places where these jobs are located. Now, of course, location matters quite a bit when it comes to wages and compensation. So they look at places like LA, New York, San Francisco, very, very large places that, yes, while the amount of money that you get there for a job is actually great, in that area is not so great because the cost of living is so high. The cost of rents is so high. The cost of owning a home is so high. So it turns out to not be great, even if people start out with, for example, a $15 minimum wage in San Francisco, they still can't afford a house. They still can't afford an apartment. They still can't afford, things like food and entertainment and transportation and things like that. So that's what they're saying. Now, Third Way. Now I can criticize them. I actually can't stand The Third Way. What they advocate for is for so-called centrist positions, centrist solutions to our problems, i.e. more corporate-friendly tax cuts, and of course, deregulation of industry. Now they call them, they're being called by USA Today a center-left think tank. No, I believe that they are actually center-right, since again, they believe in the old powerful markets, which apparently, they're what brought us into this, right? They're anti-union, etc. So now, but what they're saying here is the major cause of this, of these wages not being high enough, is that there's just not enough opportunity. Quote, Jim Kessler, Vice President of Policy for Third Way and editor of the report, says there's just not enough opportunity in this country. There's an opportunity crisis. What does that mean? There's an opportunity crisis. We don't have enough opportunity for people to lift themselves up by their bootstraps. No, what we have is we have a system, an economic system that rewards CEOs for cutting costs as much as possible and rewarding their executives and themselves. That's the system we're in. This is a system that does not favor actual working people. So they're wrong. This is not an opportunity crisis. It's a economic inequality crisis. Now, furthermore, though, Kessler writes, this explains some of the economic uneasiness and, frankly, the political uneasiness, even amid the most robust U.S. economy and labor market since before the Great Recession of 2007 to 2009. It's so robust. Really, how robust is it? Well, they tell, the jobs numbers are fantastic. They're actually incredibly low. And wages are up 3%. Oh my God. Inflation is 2.7%. Pretty much any of the gains that wages have seen have been eaten up by inflation. Wages have been stagnant since about the 1980s. But no, they think not enough opportunity. Oh. No, here's the thing. Wages are too low because Congress refuses to raise a minimum wage to a living wage. And look, and I'm saying that wouldn't even solve the problem in places like San Francisco and New York and LA, because a living wage of $15 an hour actually isn't the living wage. Now, More notable findings here, right? 30% of jobs are considered to be hardship jobs, meaning they don't allow a single adult to make ends meet. That's why you see, of course, more households having two working parents instead of the traditional one parent goes to work, the other parent takes care of the kids, right? Both working adults, and then they barely get by. Not only that, but 32% are considered living wage jobs, right? That's enough to get by, but not to take vacations, save for retirement, or live in a moderately priced home. Remember, this is what we're actually asking for. A living wage, just enough to live on and not take fancy vacations. And yet, of course, people who are opponents of a living wage say, oh my God, I can't believe these burger flippers actually just want to live. They don't take vacations. They don't live in nice homes. Look, they're barely getting enough to be able to survive. That's what we're literally asking for. I know, right? And they pretend that we're asking for the world, for a $15 minimum wage. Because when you think about it, when you actually look at the numbers, $15 an hour just comes out to $30,000 a year. That's not even that's not even middle class. Not even middle class. But not only that, talking about the middle class, 23% of jobs are actually middle class jobs that they allow for dining out, modest vacations, and putting money away for retirement. Some money away. And finally, 15% of professional jobs, paving the way for a more comfortable life that includes more elaborate vacations and entertainment and a more expensive home. You know, if we were to actually give people a wage based on productivity, it would be somewhere $22, $23, $24, $25 an hour. That's where we would be at. And again, we're just asking for $15 an hour for most of the areas in the country. And I know it varies by city and by state and, you know, town, etc., county even. But $15, basically, excepting these large cities, is what most of the country can actually live on. And so I think what we need to do is actually have it scale in different places. But asking for 15 is basically just the minimum. And that's why they call it a minimum wage, right? Now, look, there's another reason too why we are in the predicament that we're in, and that's the decline of unions. So, and that goes hand in hand, by the way, with the decline of wages. Why wages are stagnant and haven't been keeping up with inflation or productivity. You have unions that have been crushed. Union membership is at record lows. And what little unions remain are being threatened by right-to-work laws and legislation and Supreme Court decisions that are basically set to destroy them. The recent Janus decision, for example, that makes union dues optional, meaning that there are people that can get union benefits or union negotiated benefits like higher wages and medical care without actually having to pay into the union that lobbies on their behalf. These people are basically free riders. They're getting the benefits of what they did not pay for, what they did not help to do, and what they did not try to organize and work with their fellow union members in order to get. What's that about taking personal responsibility? So the decline of unions has had a huge, huge impact on wages. And so until we get to that, until we get a higher living wage and a stronger unions and unions that are protected by legislation, we're going to continue to go nowhere. And the middle class, what's left of it, is going to continue to shrink until it's basically gone. And with it, the American dream, the actual American dream. Okay. Speaking of the actual, American dream, let's go to the richest families in the world, or in the United States. Now, income and wealth inequality is a gigantic issue here in America, but there are people out there who have benefited greatly from this enormous wealth inequality. And they have done so, of course, by lobbying politicians in order to pass laws that are allowing them to keep more of their own money. Now, how much? A lot. It turns out that the wealth of America's 3 richest families from the year 1982 has grown, thanks to these policies, thanks to the lobbying, by 6,000%. The top 3 wealthiest billionaires in the U.S., Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, and Warren Buffett, now have as much wealth as the bottom half of the U.S. population combined. Now, it's not just because they've been uber profitable. It's also because the bottom fifth of U.S. households are literally underwater. They have 0 or negative net worth. And the next fifth has very few assets to fall back on. In fact, Paul Volcker, who's a former Federal Reserve chairman, said of this situation, quote, "We're developing into a plutocracy." Well, ain't that the truth? Plutocracy, oligarchy. Basically, we are now a country run by rich people. I mean, no bones about it. There was a study a few years back, I think it's a Stanford study, that shows that we, regular people, you and me, we have statistically 0 impact on public policy discussions. So that explains how people can be, a majority of people, 90%, for example, can be in favor of background checks, expanded background checks for gun purchases. And yet, NRA lobbyists and other special interest groups, they go and they bribe our politicians, and so we don't get that. Or how now a majority of Americans want Medicare for all instead of our for-profit private insurance system. And we are no closer to getting Medicare for all than we've ever have been before. And in fact, one of the major political parties is actually out to destroy what little exists of a decent healthcare system that we had in Obamacare, right? Which again, was not great, was not perfect, certainly had a ton of flaws and needed to be expanded. Instead, what the Republicans are doing is that they're contracting it, they're destroying it, chipping it away piece by piece. So, but anyway, let's get to the more, the wealthiest families, right? Now, the 3 wealthiest families are the Waltons, the Mars Candy family, and the Koch brothers, heirs of the country's 2nd largest private company, Koch Industries. Now, these are old enterprises, by the way, that were built by the grandparents and parents of today's wealthy heirs and heiresses. So this is dynasties now. We now have not political, well, we do have political dynasties as well, the Bushes and the Clintons, etc. But we also have wealth dynasties, dynastic wealth. Now, we are supposed to be a country that makes sure that we don't have dynastic wealth that basically runs a country. And we did so by doing things like estate taxes, for example, in order to take some of that wealth and put it back into the rest of the population through the government programs. Redistribution of wealth. I know I just made some right-winger's head explode when I said that, but that's what they do. Redistribution of wealth, so that it doesn't just stay in a pile and get passed down from generation to generation. Unfortunately, that's what's happening today because of people like the Koch brothers, because of families like the Waltons that will go in and they use their money. They give millions of dollars to politicians, and those politicians will pass things like reducing the estate tax, or in the last tax cut, trying to eliminate the estate tax. Now, these 3 families, by the way, right now have a combined fortune of $348.7 billion. That is 4 times the median wealth of an average U.S. family. And since 1982, these three families have seen their wealth increase by nearly 6,000%, factoring in inflation. Meanwhile, the median household wealth went down 3% in the same period. Breaking it down by family, the dynastic wealth of the Walton family itself grew from $690 million in 1982, or $1.81 billion in 2018 dollars, to $169.7 billion in 2018. That is a 9,000% increase. And how much money do these people need? That is the question. How much money is enough? Apparently, there is no limit to how much they want to amass. And in fact, they have lobbied Congress to get tax cuts. The recent round of tax cuts for the rich was aimed squarely at the Waltons and the Koch brothers because they have spent millions of dollars on legal bribes. Should we get the money out of politics? Yes, we need to get the money out of politics because they will never be satisfied with the amount of money that they have. They will never be satisfied. They will continue to ask for a bigger trough. You guys have all seen the meme, for example, of the wine glasses, right? That wine glass just keeps getting bigger. It does not trickle down. It will never trickle down. And there are other tricks, of course, than just tax cuts. There's trusts, shell corporations, there's offshore accounts, there's moving all around the world to dodge taxes. And right now, the government has done nothing. In fact, they have encouraged this behavior by weakening tax laws and weakening the IRS to go after the actual tax cheats. I mean, the Panama Papers was basically recently forgotten. That came out in 2016, showed how all of these rich, very, very rich people, billionaires, are basically just hiding their money offshore. And they're screwing taxpayers out of billions or millions of dollars. Not only that, but we just had a bombshell story of the Trump family, the Trump organization, basically lying and cheating on their taxes. And that story instantly forgotten by not only the media, but also pretty much everybody else. This is how the rich continue to get richer. And look, I don't begrudge CEOs their money. But at the same time, there has to be a limit on how much they can hoard, how much they can amass. There needs to be taxation on the rich that is proportionate to their income. We need to go back to a more progressive tax system that taxes the rich fairly, and they're still going to be rich. You tax them more, but they won't be so obscenely wealthy that they destroy the economy, that they bring down and destroy the middle class, and they destroy the actual American dream. And unfortunately, that's what's happening right now. Okay. Moving on. One more story here, you guys. All right. Republican rising star Candace Owens is having a sad over Kanye West. Now, on Tuesday, Ye, as he is going to call him himself now, said that he would get out of politics because he was feeling a bit used. I'll explain that in a minute. But he tweeted on Tuesday, "My eyes are now wide open and I now realize I've been used to spread messages I don't believe in. I am distancing myself from politics and completely focusing on being creative." Well, thank goodness. right? Now, he also said, hey, I support prison reform, common sense gun laws, and compassion for people seeking asylum. So now, overnight, I'm assuming all those new Kanye fans on the right are probably kind of mad now. They might be a little bit upset. But anyway, look, none of those reasons, I think, are the reason that Candace Owens is upset. The real reason is that Kanye apparently did not give Candace's permission to use him on the logo for her Blexit campaign. Now, Blexit, of course, is black exit. Apparently, it's this so-called movement headed by Candace Owens to have black people apparently leave the Democrat plantation, right? Stop being victims, she says, and leave the Democratic Party and go vote for Republicans. Okay. Look, Democrats, I've got my criticisms of them. A lot of black folks have their criticism of the Democrats as well for not doing enough. But if you think that they're not as bad as Republicans, okay, man. All right. Sure. Anyway, now, according to media reports, Owens had claimed that West designed the logo and colors of Blexit. But according to Ye, that's not actually true. All right. In fact, West had wrote, I introduced Candace to the person who made the logo, and they didn't want their name on it, so she used mine. Basically saying, I don't have nothing to do with it, man. She just used my name out of the blue. What are you doing? What are you doing, Candace? I never gave you permission to do that. I just introduced you to a guy, and the guy's like, ooh, I don't want anything to do with this, except I'll take your money and I'll design it, but do not put my name on it. I don't want to be associated with this terrible movement. Okay. Now, he continues, if it's not clear enough, quote, I never wanted any association with Blexit. I have nothing to do with it. So it appears Ye just had a Blexit of his own. He Blexited the fuck out of there. And after this, of course, supposed betrayal, Owens took to her blog to basically whine. She said, and you're going to love the drama here, right? If knowing that I bleed and that I hurt brings you comfort and celebration, then there is no question that you won last night. It gets better. And maybe I am having a little bit of celebration. Maybe it's a little bit of catharsis, but, you know, or whatever that word is. But yeah, okay, maybe you can say I'm celebrating. Because Candace Owens is basically a fraud. But anyway, she continues. If I had to imagine what it would feel like to have a bullet pierce my heart, it would be exactly the moment I learned Kanye told the world he felt I had used him. I wouldn't wish the way I felt last night upon my worst enemy. Speaking of bullets, right? You know, there is this situation where a lot of African Americans have faced real bullets from racist police officers. Are you talking about that at all? Or are you saying Blue Lives Matter, right? Yeah, of course cops matter, duh. But black people matter. And the whole point of Black Lives Matter is for them to say, hey, we matter too. Don't shoot us, for Christ's sakes. Come on. But anyway, so a lot of drama there. Very, very, very dramatic. But here's the thing. In reality, my natural inclination is to make fun of Kanye West. But he's got mental illness. He's got bipolar disorder. And I allegedly, from what I've heard, went off his meds. I don't know if that's true or not. But what I do say is that mental illness is no joke, right? It's why I don't want to criticize him. But at the same time, he's made up a lot of decisions that are terrible, terrible, terrible. Look, this is a guy who had a lot of money and went broke and then was begging Mark Zuckerberg for like $50 million. And so I can't help wonder that maybe if his idea to get out of politics might have something to do with the money. For example, all the backlash Ye got from cozying up with Donald Trump. And so, I don't know. But bipolar or not, the guy does care about his money. Hey, look, yeah, if you're that wealthy, I don't blame you, right? And it's speaking of people who care about their money, so does Candace Owens. So in reality, who tried to use who, right? Was it Kanye using Trump to try to capitalize on him? Or was it Owens and Trump capitalizing on Kanye? Or is it a situation where everybody was trying to make money off each other? Because they're all kind of hucksters. I don't know. I don't know. But nonetheless, right? Owens insisted that she had never claimed that West was the one who designed her Blexit paraphernalia, right? So Kanye's like, oh, no, she said it was me. I had nothing to do with Blexit. And she's like, well, that's I never said that. I never said that you did that at all. Well, survey says that's bullshit. And I've got proof.
Blexit is a renaissance, and I'm blessed to say that this logo, these colors, were created by my dear friend and fellow superhero, Kanye West. We wear this logo as a symbol that we have freed ourselves. Every American who wears this logo realizes that when we all come together, when we refuse to allow the media to divide us, when we all come together, we'll start to understand that the colors of this country are red, white, and blue.
Oops. Yeah, she said that. This logo, these colors were created by my dear friend and fellow superhero, Kanye West. Yeah. Well then. Video don't lie, but Candace does. In fact, Candace has gotten in trouble recently for a tweet that she had deleted. That was fun too. Okay, but anyway, look, Candace Owens, again, she lies a lot. She's a huckster. There's nobody that's good in this story. Not even Kanye. So it's basically a shit show all around. And oh, it's painful to report on it. Okay, so that's it. That's all I got today. Oh, man. All right, guys. I'm going to get out of here. Hopefully you guys have a happy Halloween and be safe out there if you're taking your kids out to trick or treat or something like that, or going to any kind of Halloween party. Just be safe, all right? And have a good time. And we'll see you guys on the show tomorrow. So thanks, everybody. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, guys. Beam me up.